Hello everyone, I hope that my sound and my video are okay. And I believe I'm live now. So I'm gonna grab my water and get started with painting this. One moment. Oh, hello, hello, hello. Welcome, new viewers. So I am just setting up my references. You can go see my main reference is on my Discord channel in the photo references. Link is in the description. Then go grab this one, and I'll put that here, and over here, and this one can go bye-bye. Then we'll look at my reference photos. And welcome back. Let's open this. There we go. Cool, cool, cool. Hope everyone is having a nice week and a nice Friday. With apologies, I've been gone the last couple weeks. I am in withdrawal from some meds that I've stopped taking because they had some really nasty side effects. Unfortunately, that means I'm in pain because that was my pain meds, as well as withdrawal. So I was not in a great position to be streaming yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, last week, and feeling better now, but oh, this is upside down from how I usually have my palette set up. Hi Lana, how are you? Welcome everyone. How's your week been? Last couple weeks. I have tea and sweet poppy seed rolls, which are called snails here. Oh, that's so cool. I would totally eat a snail of the sweet poppy seed roll variety, because that sounds delicious. And you've just reminded me that it is just about time to start to go scatter some poppy seeds in the garden. I've never had great luck growing poppies. They're supposed to be really easy. You scatter them in early spring and they grow on their own. Nut snails too. I would share a snail with you. I would absolutely share a snail with you. That sounds delightful. When are you coming to Canada? I'll figure out how to make snails just to share with you. I thought when I come to Canada I'd just bring snails. That is also very welcome, yes. How long is the flight? 7 hours? Fly into Toronto, we'll come pick you up. Yeah, it's like 7 or 8 hours, I think. Might be less. 7 hours or so, I think. Where's your nearest airport? 7 hours, it might still be fresh enough. Yeah, that sounds great. I think the only issue is bringing in baked goods. I mean, that's probably actually fine. Nuremberg. I don't know that there's too many direct flights, but anyway, yeah, you fly probably into Toronto. Or fly into Montreal, visit Ev, and we can take the train back. Snails for everyone. Suitcase full of snails. That sounds great. It sounds lovely. I really need to run this underwater. This palette has been driving me crazy for weeks now, as I've started painting again, but it's just so full of dust and grime from months of not being used. And I keep putting it off, washing it, like, oh, but I've just got all my lovely mixes here. Dry cloth over it, which takes away the dust too. I don't think that a dry cloth will do it, because this is like all honey-based paint, and I live in a sometimes very humid climate, but a wet cloth might. Aquarelle nature. Hi, Antoine. Bienvenue. Yeah, it's just full of dust and pet fur here, so I just, at some point, I'm gonna need to suck it up and run this palette underwater so that I can use it again, and then remember to keep a cover on it. Alright, you know what? I am gonna go, oh, well, you know what? I almost want to get this on video. At one point there was a video of a watercolor artist who'd taken one of the little tins and run it underwater, and it was one of these very, very shall we say, I don't know, like controversial videos. And people freaking out about wasting paint and how could you? And I will admit that I've done this to my palettes. All of them. Give me a heart attack. It's fine. It's fine. It just rinses the very top layer. It looks like a lot of paint, but it's not a lot. It gets it all clean. No, like it rinses off and then you just like, you can get the last little bits off pretty easily. It does actually get it a lot cleaner than any kind of like individual cleaning. There's more paint than before. It really doesn't, I promise you. No, the only problem with it is if you have like a tin and you take the whole tin and you run it underwater, obviously the water's going to get in under the pans too, so it can cause rust under the pans, but I promise you it does not. It is an effective way of cleaning. And it looks like a lot of wasted paint, but it really, really, really does not waste that much paint. I have to say, that's one thing I've learned from like painting huge scale, is a tiny bit of watercolor goes a really, really long way. This is obviously not huge scale, this is teeny, but I actually just never clean my palette. I mean, that is also true. Here, let me see. This palette's kind of a disaster, but it's different than some of my other disasters. Let me find you a different disaster. Actually, all the palettes that I have in my current studio are not not at peak disaster. But I don't wash my palettes frequently. But you know, once every few years, once I've got something like this that's more dog hair than paint. That piece there is my scale. I paint tiny. Yeah, so I paint increasingly large. There's this piece. It's interesting because I'm making a video featuring one of the paintings that I'm doing for on the Skin of Giants, this thing, and talking about direct watercolor, and I talk about how, you know, if you want to get started with direct watercolor, you probably want to start small. And then I show this, and I realize, okay, this feels small to me, but that's only because I've been working on bigger things. Let's see, maybe if I start inking this will start getting clearer. So I started this out with just watercolor, but I am actually planning on inking this piece and the other one that I showed you. So I am gonna start adding, there we go, yeah. The thing is, because I also paint outdoors, so I've also had palettes that are full of like sand and plant matter like embedded into the plant and into the thing because it blew over. So sometimes sometimes my palettes get really, really disgusting. And a little bit of dust never hurt anyone, but I mean, I don't know if it's climate or what, but there are definitely times when wiping is not nearly enough to get out the, like, huge quantity of stuff that seems to collect in my palette sometimes. Okay, let's make some more of this brown. Like, oh, look at all this tear. Cat. Here, we can zoom in maybe. Oh man. Hey, sorry. I have a new camera arm that I need to mount over my other desk, but it's a huge project to rearrange all my filming setup. I haven't taken it on yet. Maybe this weekend. So right now I'm using one of the, I think they're designed as microphone boom arms, the newer ones, but I've got a proper like wall mount camera arm that's going to be great over my other desk. Maybe that's how I should have approached this. Dang. Do you find that it's the stand on your desk stays stable? Also, I guess it depends what kind of camera you're using. So for my... I guess this is a question... Yeah, because... Oh, man, because it's been years. So, like, I know what people were using years ago, but... And I haven't really switched. Like, I mean, I've gotten a new phone, but I haven't really switched my main filming setup in ever. Super stable. No, that's awesome. That's great. Congratulations on having a stable desk. I use a DSLR. Yeah, okay, so I also have a DSLR, well, Panasonic Lumix G7. So I guess technically mirrorless. Basically DSLR. So it's heavy. And the little microphone stand is not solid enough. Here, maybe I can bring out the other thing. One moment. I'll go grab it as soon as I finish this little part of my... Oh, yes, please. Yeah, please do tag me. Other than maybe getting an action cam, just to replace my phone for some on-the-go videos, I'm thinking of getting a, oh, what are they called? Little mini ones. Of course I've forgotten. I'm probably not making any major changes other than, you know, installing the things I already have, but... Here, I'll go grab my, my stand thing. So I've got this thing now that my husband got at auction. He's been trawling auctions for all sorts of things. And so this will mount to the wall, and it is extremely sturdy and stable. And then we'll just mount the camera into here, and so, sorry, on here. So then it will be able to swing out and hang out over my desk, and since it's attached to the wall, super sturdy. And then also swing out, and I have an easel set up on the other side so I can paint larger pieces. And so it can also swing out so it can record me working on my easel as well. So I'll have the heavy-duty camera on that. Then if I'm pointing at my face or on the go, then I use my phone currently. But I wanted to switch to a DJI Osmo 3 was what I had been eyeing, but we shall see, because you see, money, money. Yeah, it might be good with you. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So this is all in my home studio. So I do have, oh gosh, I have 2 studios. So at the other studio, I'll still be on like a phone or motion camera, but there's more room there for like setting up a tripod. I've been working from home a lot more recently for a variety of reasons. But I know that these things change over time and people have, you know, figure out new methods, and honestly, I did all my research years and years ago, and then I've been so unreliable about keeping up my video production or my any work that I haven't really updated it. But gradually, things are changing. I'm very hopeful that things are looking up now. So. Editing right now. Ooh! I have some editing to do after I'm done this live stream. And I'm hopeful that it should be fairly simple editing, hopefully. I'm trying to come up with a strategy so that I find that I divide myself where like I want to do certain projects for like long-term exhibition, and then there's things that I want to do for video, and they're often not the same, and often I come up with video ideas that take a lot of every step, where they take a lot of prep for the painting, a lot of different video bits, B-roll, etc., a lot of editing, a lot of like, you know, I get carried away with like, oh, wouldn't this be a cool idea for video, and it's taking me away from working on other stuff, and, you know, I have limited energy. So I've been trying to figure out how to manage that. I started streaming some of this process, which helps kind of. Yes! Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be an exhibition piece, so I am streaming this. So that helps. I'm hoping that having working out my video setup so that it's easier to record working at an easel will also help. And then I'm also just trying to sort of be selective about what videos I'm making and think about, oh, how can I make my regular work process, the regular things that I'm going to be doing anything, how can I use those in video rather than coming up with the video idea first and then trying to, you know, create a video around that, because then that's an extra project. So rather than that, just have the art footage and then tailor the video to that. And we'll see. I mean, it's early days, but something needs to happen. Something's got to give. Oh, how blown out are these colors? Again, I've got light, got natural light, which is, I think, blowing out my colors a little. Dang. Sometimes the idea comes first, sometimes I just add a voiceover to footage I have with a fitting topic. Well, sorry, the idea can come first, but also rather than like, oh, what would be the ideal painting footage for this topic, like have a list of topics, have my stuff that I'm working on, and then connect those, rather than have my list of topics, have my other projects that I'm working on that aren't video, and then, oh, I want to work on this video next. How can I, yeah. You could always talk about preparations for exhibitions and what's going on, etc., techniques. Yes, yeah. Like, so there's a lot of things that I can use existing projects for. It's just not, I just haven't been very strategic about it. And so I think that I need to, again, because it just depends, you know, like each of these things is a full-time job, right? Like, you can be a full-time content creator, you can be a full-time video editor, you can be a full-time art teacher, you can be a full-time, like, so trying to do all of them doesn't work great. So I'm just trying to figure out how I can, yeah. So the truth is, I do not actually want to be a full-time YouTuber. Sorry, not a thing. I mean, I'm happy to have, like, some of the most successful artists I've seen, they might have a team of editors, but they're doing their art, their illustration, and there's content that comes out of that, and it comes out every, you know, week or two or whatever, but that they're not necessarily creating stuff for, yeah. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, but maybe someday. Actually, more likely, I mean, I have paid Ev to do a couple of videos. I had a co-op student that I was gonna hire after his term now to do some of my videos. As it turns out, I really didn't get enough training in with him while he was on co-op, so at this point it just seems like that would be more trouble than it's worth. But I do have, more likely than like, oh, YouTube is going to pay for its own editing, I do a huge amount of my revenue comes through grant projects, and I do put in video expenses as part of my grant applications, so that's probably where some amount of editing will get paid for. I'd need a few more zeros on my, I feel like if I had one more zero, I'd be good. Especially if I had one more zero, like, as my views are when I'm actually posting regularly, and I think that's my other issues. I've just, man, health issues. That really is the story, health issues. Then you're almost there. Yeah, so I was doing pretty well, and then I stopped posting. And now this year's been fun. So several years ago, I'd been dealing with chronic pain through like 2018, 2019. I got really bad, but I was still doing quite a bit of video. I was still really just pushing through it. And then when the pandemic hit, I mean, I took a break and kind of collapsed. And then after that, I got prescribed venlafaxine, which is an SNRI, and this is going to be my warning to everyone, is I thought it was magic. It's an SNRI that worked magic on my chronic pain. So good. This stuff's magic. I'll be on this for life. It seems like it was actually causing tachycardia. So my heart rate had been kind of insane this past year, but also it just made my brain into mush. And so earlier this year I titrated down. Finally had a little bit more energy and eventually came off of it entirely. And that was in around, like October, November, when I had a bit of a moment where I was doing my videos again. And then, then I got pregnant. And I went back on venlafaxine because I couldn't take most pain meds and muscle relaxants that I'd been taking as an alternative. And it hit me even harder. So even though I was then on the lowest dose that had been sort of okay for me, we're pretty sure that that's what was causing some really serious fatigue issues. Initially we thought it was pregnancy. It's not. So yeah. Yeah, the pandemic was sort of like the hit that, but I mean, the thing is, like, it was bad before. It was just, you know, I was just sort of running on fumes. So in my case, it was sort of an inevitable, like, I couldn't have kept that up. Being pregnant is difficult enough. So I had a miscarriage, so I'm not pregnant anymore. But yes, so right now I'm off of, I just went through, so venlafaxine, if you ever get prescribed venlafaxine, watch out. It is, they don't necessarily warn you, but it has a withdrawal profile like heroin. It is bad. And so, yeah, the last couple weeks have been tough coming off of venlafaxine again. And now it was genuinely, the stuff was magic for my chronic pain. So it sucks because I'm in pain again. But on the other hand, I am now awake. And venlafaxine, I mean, it was very effective against chronic pain, but it also just made me sort of a sluggish vegetable. So, you know, mixed bag there. Hi, Julia. So, some amount of ignoring it just works, and the truth is, in some sense, if you ignore it, if you ignore it the right way, if you ignore it the right amount, it's actually effective. Like, it actually does make the pain less, right? Because a lot of chronic pain is, I'll find there's a podcast that my studio mate found about chronic pain that's just very, very informative. That goes into, like, it's in your head, it's also in your body, but like it's a broken connection where you're feeling pain, where you for signals that don't require you to feel pain. And so there is always a like push through it treatment that can be effective. Now, you can also do too much of that, which is what I'd done. So finding that balance is difficult, but as it turns out, yeah, chronic pain I seem to be able to push through a little bit better than chronic fatigue. Like, not, you know, my brain not working how I want it to. Ignoring leads to moving more, which makes the pain slightly less. Yes, so that's exactly it. It's like, if you're in pain, you're going to be in pain regardless, right? You're going to be in pain if you're lying in bed thinking about the pain, and you're going to be in pain if you're up and moving around. And so some amount of not ignoring the pain, but pushing through it actually makes it less, because it, first of all, distracts you. So you're not sitting there thinking about how you're in pain, which of course makes you be in less pain. But also, yeah, build up your strength, whatever, so that you're actually in less pain long term. Yeah, so that's kind of what I discovered, is that the, you know, as much as it's much less, like, pain is much less pleasant, but in the long term I would rather be in a bit of pain and moving around than just sort of comatose. Not in pain, but just not doing anything. And so that was, unfortunately, the meds I was on were doing great at making me not be in pain, but they were also just knocking me out entirely. So now I'm off. I mean, it'll still be several more weeks of getting through this withdrawal, but I'm through the worst of the withdrawal now, so hi, Jill. And I have a lot more energy now, so energy is good. Pain, not so good, but we're just gonna have to deal. And relearn how to push through. I feel like it comes with practice too, where like there's a lot of pain that I didn't even realize that I had until it went away. Now I'm very aware of it. when my vitamin D levels were low before it got discovered. I felt so tired. That's interesting. My vitamin D levels are perpetually kind of low. And I supplement and it seems to, no, they're just stubborn. They just don't seem to move. They're not like very, very low. How low were your vitamin D levels? Because I've questioned whether this is something that somehow I should be addressing. At 7. I'm assuming that this is like, they're supposed to be at 100 and something. Normal is about 30, okay. All right, yes, I think mine are not that low. I think mine are, you know, it's supposed to be at 30 and mine are at 20 or something. Like, it's not that low. Nothing was that low. My doctor just, like, okay, well, you've got, you know, maybe try supplementing iron, maybe try supplementing this, like, and most of the things didn't really do much. Taurine was magic. Eating meat was magic. Will be a while I choose supplies to take along on my trip. Where are you going, Jill? I was sleeping like 16 hours a day. That has been me for far too long. But we're down to like 12 hours now. So I'm good. I'm happy. 12 hours I can manage. $12 and lots of pain. I did get my omega-3 tested. Oh, interesting. I've never had my omega-3 tested, but I do wonder whether that's where my, whether that had something to do with my, issues with the crazy beef cravings I had for a while after I started eating meat after being vegetarian for 27 years. Because I went through a few months where it was like, oh, you know, ground beef is a food group. Yeah, so I hadn't taken DHA EPA at all, and I'd been vegetarian, like no meat, no fish, no anything, for 27 years, mostly vegan for some of those. Heading to see in several days. Stop St. Louis and then finish in a couple days in Chicago. Oh, nice. Sounds like fun. Enjoy your trip. let's see if I can get a little bit more. Please. Well, I just have the one, and I've been using it quite a bit, actually. So, yes. Sorry, I mean, I have two, but one of them's empty. I only have one filled. But I do really like using it. In fact, initially I thought I was filling this. So this has, here, I'll bring out the... So I filled this, if you recall, there's some like wacky color choices here. They do collect dust way too much. Now for, I think they now do come with a cover. They didn't used to. We've made acrylic covers for some of these, not this size, but the slightly smaller one. Now for the giant one, here, maybe if I zoom out just a bit, can I zoom out just a bit? Is that going to let me zoom out, or am I zooming in more? There we go. So this palette I filled with all sorts of random, not all very light fast colors, which is another change in my priorities, is I'm not worrying so much about just how perfectly light fast things are. Now I am kind of avoiding using like my bright opera here, which I'm pretty sure is mostly just a fluorescent dye. But there's a lot of pigments in here that are sort of marginally light fast. Things like Aussie Red Gold and Deep Scarlet and this greenish yellow PY117 and all sorts of things that Prussian Blue, that they're not, you know, the best light fastness. And when I put this palette together, I mean, mostly I just wanted to have those out somewhere. Indigo as well. I wanted to have these colors available to me somewhere, and they're fun to play with. But I figured if I was doing like gallery pieces, I would still just not use them. And I've backed away from that slightly. I'm working on this piece and another right now that I'm using this palette for. And while I am avoiding things like bright opera, I'm not worrying too much about the fact that overall this palette has a bunch of things that are sort of middling on the light fastness scale. Part of this is just coming to terms with, yeah, I mean, I think this is a uniquely like watercolorist concern where, to be honest, most other media, there are people who paint in acrylic don't worry about this. If you go through any kind of art exhibition, there's just so much, in every other media, there's just so much that is, it's about creating the effect that you want right now, and there's not really as much concern about what will this be like in 200 years. Yes, so I haven't made a lid for this one, which is part of why it's so dusty. But Jordan made lids for I have two of the slightly smaller version, the rectangle ones of these. And I do have lids for those. They didn't come with lids, but we made lids. Yeah, any kind of like big platter. If you have like a sufficiently large square platter, it'll cover it. The lids we made Jordan made really. I was only small involvement. I threw everything I paint out after a few months, so I probably should not care either. Just take a photo before it goes. I'm not, like, to be honest, it's not even about throw out. It's like, I'm taking some little precautions, right? I'm not using cobalt yellow. I'm not using a whole pile of fluorescent pink. But other than that, it's like, okay, well, I will treat my paintings well, but if they are moderate light fastness, okay, so they might change very slightly. Like if you look at Prussian blue and you shine it and you light fast test it, it doesn't disappear. It loses saturation. And okay, so maybe the paintings will lose saturation if somebody puts them in a window. You know, not like in a window, but like facing a window. I mean, ultimately, I think this is a bit of a contrived worry, and I am choosing to relieve myself of it. And that is also going to be a video. Exactly. I've never heard a single other media artist worry as much as watercolor artists do about light fastness. Yes, I think this is specifically a watercolor thing, and I think it's specifically it's not even all watercolorists, right? It's like this band of watercolorists where it's like if you're painting just for fun, if you're just painting like little paintings, that you're not expecting to save forever. There's a lot of watercolor artists who paint with dye-based paints, and that's also fine. And then there's this band, and I think it's middle market artists. It's people who are selling their artwork or want to sell their artwork, even if they're not actively selling, but they're thinking about selling or gifting their artwork, and they're valuing their artwork, whether they're actually selling it or they're just gifting it, but they're valuing their artwork somewhere in the like hundreds of dollars range. Maybe low thousands. And the truth is, and then you go to the big art fairs and you have, you know, these performance artists who tack a banana to a gallery wall. And I'm not tacking bananas to gallery walls. I am not putting half sharks in tanks of formaldehyde. Like, this is not... I do actually want to make art that has some sort of permanence, but and some sort of effort, some sort of whatever. But I do feel like maybe I'm making a little bit too much of it, where I had this I did have this concern, and partially it was, you know, I'd done a few small, like art fair type things where people would ask, and there's this assumption that watercolor is ephemeral, that watercolor somehow isn't as permanent as, you know, if you want a real painting, you make it out of something else, oil or acrylic, weirdly, but acrylic, like the whole, we don't know how acrylic polymer holds up over 100 years. The guess is probably not well. I do a lot of colored pencil work. A lot of the colored pencil artists do worry about light fastness. Yes, I've seen that. Although I will point out that it's still not the level of watercolor artists, where colored pencil artists do worry about it somewhat because there are, like, you know, neon colored pencils, and a lot of the colored pencil lines do just include those. But colored pencils often, I can think of 2 colored pencil lines where they actually list what the pigments are, which is, you know, it's a scandal when watercolor brands don't list their pigments. And I think it should be. Like, I think it's important to know what's in your materials. And to have that choice, and I appreciate that about watercolor and the obsession with light fastness, but yeah. So I've purchased, if you sell your work, then you should worry. I mean, so here's the thing. So I had the experience, you know, years ago of my first experiences with, like, art fairs and stuff, art markets, where people asked me about, like, oh, well, this is watercolor, so then will it fade? And at that point, I had I decided at that point, you know what, I'm only going to use very light fast paintings so that I can tell people when they buy, no, this artwork will outlive you. Like, provided you don't put it underwater, don't, you know, treat it reasonably, but, you know, you have it in a frame, hung properly, it will outlive you and it won't change. And, you know, if you have any issues, just bring it back to me. You know, I think that's, to some extent, that's valuable. I mean, part of it is also that I've sort of, this piece is still sort of in that realm. But I've been doing increasingly large pieces and increasingly interacting with a portion of the art market that isn't really the craft fair watercolor market. And at some level it's just, you know, why am I going to worry about this when I'm sat beside someone who's using scraps of newspaper collaged with acrylic polymer to a giant canvas, right? Like, I think it's valuable to know what my materials are and to be able to be honest and straightforward about them. But I think that why am I engaging in this? Oh, you know, this should be more valuable to you than you think it is because it's gonna last longer. Like, you clearly don't actually care about that if you're looking at the all the other pieces in this fair. This is interesting from you, Lana. I'm not entirely surprised because I think we have had this conversation before, but given that you're light in colors, you're the light fastness girl. Anyway, I always want to be aware of the materials that I'm using, but I've made a decision to not engage to the same degree in worrying about, oh, will this last 50 years or 100 if it's in direct light? Like, is it going to be in direct light realistically for 50 or 100 years? Oh, I doubt it. But, you know, if it is, then you know, that... then maybe some things will fade slightly. But if I am dedicating a whole bunch of my energy, and also like when I'm talking, I guess it's also just a question of when I'm talking to potential customers, it's this, if I'm focusing on that, then I am making my art about that, and I don't want to talk about other people's, like, I don't want to be pointing fingers, but I feel like it turns finger pointy when I engage in that, when it's like, well, yeah, you know, my artwork is durable, but not that you know, acrylic that you're comparing to. It's just, yeah. So there's stuff like PG8 in this palette, etc. All sorts of things that are, they're not, I mean, other than there is a opera here, and this particular opera is particularly insanely bright. Like, I think it is mostly fluorescent and will just fade to nothing. So I don't really touch it very much. Certainly don't depend on it for most of my depth of color. You're right, it's only watercolor. It's come with long list of... I never did. Artist for relaxation. I also put like plexiglass. Can't even use glass here in California because of earthquakes, and it offers some protection supposedly. Yes, so that was the other thing, was I was spending a ton of money on getting things framed behind to be honest, okay, so I'm just like trying to work through my own process here. The other thing that happened is I started painting on panels, and now these are framed without glass. And honestly, the other thing that I realized is, in as much as this is driven by customers, by people asking about, oh, is this going to last because it's watercolor? It's because people are actually put off by the glass. It's not actually about light fastness. People are put off by the glass. They see the glass and they think fragile, needs protection, blah, 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 blah. So I started painting on panels. And I started painting on panels for two reasons. The first one was I was painting really large, and I was painting on 300-pound 640 GSM watercolor paper. And it was still warping sometimes. Like, I put down a lot of paint. And then the other issue was it was getting so large that how are you going to, like, framing for gigantic pieces, if you need them framed behind glass, is ferociously expensive. And you can't use glass on large pieces if you're putting them in certain exhibitions. Certainly if you're shipping them, there's a lot of places that won't accept it, so you need to use plexi. Plexi scratches. And plexi has a sheen. Even the museum stuff. So it was this expensive puzzle of, like, how much am I going to spend on this thing that to protect my artwork that people don't even like. So I started painting on panels, and then I have two kinds of panels, and I will show them both. This one is Aquabord. So this is a prepared panel. It is a masonite panel with a clay surface on top of it. And then the other kind of panel I have is this guy. So this is something that I had manufactured for me. So this is an aluminum composite panel with a watercolor paper laminated to the front. So with these, you can frame them behind glass, but you don't necessarily have to, because you don't have to protect the paper from all of the things that you would usually have to protect paper from. You just have to seal it, right? So the backside is already sealed. It's already flat. It's not going to curl up. You're not going to have to worry about moisture coming in through that side. The only thing you need to do is worry about moisture coming in through the top. And so you can finish it with varnish or a cold wax, or there's all sorts of solutions. So I usually use matte fixative and then a cold wax, sometimes just a cold wax. And so then that's like it's like an oil wax finish that cures. And so then it's just like having, what you have is an encaustic or oil surface. Or, it depends. If you use an acrylic varnish, then you've got an acrylic surface. If you use an oil-based varnish, you've got an oil surface. If you've got whatever. Yeah, encaustic has been around for a long while. Cold wax is a treatment that has existed for a long, long while for encaustic and oil finishes. It keeps. It's not going to work if you just have loose paper. You do have to have it. I mean, sorry, it's not going to prevent you needing to frame loose paper. But if you have prepared panels with a paper surface and an encaustic finish have lasted for forever. So, I mean, I don't want to say that this is, there's all parts of this process that are like, well, how is the paper mounted to the panel? Well, it's archival rated acrylic medium. Okay, great. That's archival in that it, you know, it's not supposed to degrade, but like, how is it going to handle 100 years? We don't know. Lightfast pencils are also tested in museum conditions. Sorry, they say 100 years or whatever in museum conditions. I would assume that they are tested kind of like watercolors, where they're hung in a window or subjected to higher frequency light, like in a... I have those images in my head where somebody rubs with a wet cloth on the painting. I've done that. In fact, here. Here's a painting. Here's a wet cloth. Still fine. It beads up. Okay, well that's not ideal. Just knocked over a... Most mineral and earth pigments are like that. Most, not all, but definitely most. I don't think I've seen any, because Jill is right after me on the sketchbook exchange, so I haven't seen Jill's pages yet. I'm looking forward to seeing Jill's pages. I think that variety is the spice of life, and I'm really glad that there are all different styles of artwork happening in these sketchbooks. The glass did not break, it just made a scary noise as it hit my microphone stand. that sounds beautiful. I'm very excited to see, well, at least one of your I guess I'll see yours when it comes around to me. And potentially Marla's? Just trying to figure out. Yeah. Assuming it ever gets out of Kelly's house. Oh gosh. Yeah, mine is also sitting at Kelly's. What colors, textures are difficult to get in watercolor without using fugitive pigments? I mean, to be honest, other than like hot pink, sorry, the very bright like neons are all going to be fugitive. There is a challenge of lifting transparent yellow. Doesn't exist. You can get PY150, which is very transparent but extremely staining, or you can get much more opaque yellows, but you're not getting something that's transparent and lifting unless you get into aureolin, cobalt yellow, or a few other even more toxic and fugitive things. If you want single pigment greens, your options are very limited. I mean, I don't, like, to be honest, I think you can mix anything, barring fluorescents, right? Like, fluorescents are the only case where, like, yeah, you can't really mix a hot pink that isn't fluorescent, and fluorescent is never going to be light fast. But in most cases, it's not that you can't mix a color. It's that if you want a specific color with a specific transparency level, there's a lot of like really lovely sort of transparent colors, often quite transparent, that are based on an organic compound that isn't particularly light fast. So you're gonna have trouble with, I mean, like, can you mix a indigo? Yeah, indigo is absolutely something that you can mix something very much like it. But it's a lovely transparent shade that it lifts a bit nicer than some of the things that you could mix it from, and it's a single pigment, and you're not going to be able to easily replicate that. Single pigment greens, you've got PG7, PG 36, PG 17, PY 129 maybe, if you want to count that as a green. PG 17 is very, very light fast, but it's so opaque. PG 18. But if you want, like, I have 2 different shades of PG 8 here, and those you're not going to easily, like these are some lovely natural greens, and could I mix them? Yes. Would they lift as nicely? Probably not. Would they be as transparent? Also probably not. Can you mix things? Like, it's not a question of can you make all the colors. You can make all the colors, other than things that are super duper neon, but this is my PY 117 here, which I really love. Also not super light fast. The last thing is actually cyan. Cyan is a problem. So we use usually PB15, phthalo blue, but phthalo blue is not true cyan. Yeah, so PB16 is great, but it's slightly greener than true cyan. PB17 is your perfect cyan, but it's not as light fast. It's a phthalo, but it's not as light fast. And so I mean, it's also very difficult to find depending which brands you're shopping. There seems to be some production of it in Asia, but most of the European and North American brands don't buy it. So I thought it was in this sketchbook. Apparently not. Which sketchbook have I hidden my... I've gone through this before. Here. So, PB16, lovely, love this color, but it's slightly greener than a true cyan. Cobalt teal, lovely, not quite a true cyan. PB15-3, not quite a true cyan. PB33, which is discontinued and very toxic and heavily granulating, true cyan, but also, yeah, that's a problem. And then there's PB17, which I love. That would be my choice for a true cyan if I wanted to choose the perfect one. PB15-4. Lana, which brand of PB15-4 would you recommend? Because I feel like I've tried it once and I was unimpressed with, I've tried the, maybe I've tried it twice. I've definitely tried the Roman Schmal Aquarius PB15-4. I was not impressed with it being particularly more perfect cyan than... I put my Mary Blue in a palette recently. It's literally, I'm in the video I'm editing right now. Okay, I will noted, and I will try that. Also, if you can throw me some swatches with comparison to like a PB15-3 and a whatever else you have handy in that general part of the color wheel. Sweet. Yeah, because I tried the Roman Schmal Aquarius one, and I was not, to me it seemed like, if anything, it was slightly redder than the PB15-3. It was interesting. Or maybe not redder, but more muted. So it didn't really solve the I don't have a replacement for these two issue. I mean, again, all of these are like, are they actually issues? No, they're only issues in the sense of I'm a pigment nerd. And I'm not going to stop being a pigment nerd, but within my pigment nerdiness, I've decided that I don't need to give as much credence to people's concerns about light fastness as I have. So like, I have my own concerns about light fastness, and I'm still, I guess that's it. It's like, I was imagining some customer who actually cares about light fastness, and what I think I've realized is that even the customers who claim to care about light fastness don't actually care about light fastness. So in as much as light fastness is a thing that I find interesting and that I'm going to nerd out about, then I will continue to find it interesting and nerd out about it. It's strong enough to compete with PY152 when it comes to tinting strength. Yes, so that is my other issue, is that I have my PY150 as my primary. I've been using PB16 as my cyan, which is not, like, it's not quite there, but it's good enough. And I think that's part of the issue, is like, like, when we talk about, oh, you know, whether it's light fast pigments or pigments that have been discontinued or what have you, it's not that you can't mix the same chroma hue, you can't make it be granulating, you can't, like, you can create all of these effects, but sometimes having that paint, just having that paint that has that combination can feel really nice. And if you take away that specific paint, then yes, you can replace it for every purpose, you can replace it with something else. Like, say, I have let's talk about PB33, which is heavily granulating. Not in this palette, because I don't have it in this palette, but it's heavily granulating. It's also a perfect cyan. Can I replace it with something else for the cyan? Well, I mean, probably, right? Like, any case where I need this, either I can say, you know what, this is close enough, or I can say the mix of this and this is close enough, or I can, you know, I'm mixing it with something else, or I'm adding some granulation medium, I'm going to make it granulate. But it's just not, you know, it doesn't, there's a joy sometimes in like, oh, this color just, you know, it works for me for all of these things. This is how I use this color. This is how I use this paint. And if that paint goes away, like, can I still paint this thing? Can I still achieve that end result? Yes. But will it be the same process? No. Will I miss that process? Yes. My travel palette right now has no yellow other than PY129. I've done that. I've done that. Yeah. Yep. And then chosen, like, I've done the, like, oh, I'm gonna mix my very own blues by choosing, like, very bluish greens and very, very bluish purples, and then I'm just not gonna include a blue. I find if you have like a coral type color, that PY129 is actually a super useful color in for skin tones. Maybe it's because I'm just a naturally green human being with my pale olive skin. Orange and magenta. Yeah. Yeah, so this palette was an interesting experiment because all of these were paints that I'd got to try, but mostly things that I wasn't using regularly, either because they were not the most light fast, or because just for some other reason I was always putting in some other paint in all the palettes. Anyway, I've been having fun experimenting with this, and at some point I started painting stuff and started worrying about, like, oh, I used PB66 in this, and maybe it's not super light fast, can I sell this? And I decided to just not worry about it. And if somebody actually wants to nerd out about pigments, then I will happily do that with them. But the truth is, I don't need to put that on myself. And if somebody asks about light fastness, like, I can give them a rundown of, like, yeah, I don't use fluorescence. And I'm very aware of, the different light fastness of my different paints. They should be fine. If you want your paintings to stay looking the same for the next 50 years, don't hang them right in a window, but, like, that is going to be the case whether this is, watercolor is just, I think that's the other thing, is, like, the real answer is watercolor is just like any other medium. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's also just, rather than getting defensive about, oh, well, I only use the most light fast pigments, so my watercolors are light fast. It's well, I mean, it comes down to the pigments. It comes down to the pigments, whatever medium you're using. And, there are more light fast and less light fast pigments in every medium. I think the other difference with watercolor versus other media that probably contributes is that watercolor shows your it shows the pigment properties a lot more. So something like acrylic, a yellow is a yellow. Yeah, exactly. Light fastness is a pigment property. It's not a property, like, it's not that the binder, be it walnut oil or acrylic or gum arabic is going to change the light fastness of the pigment. Paints with a thicker film are going to behave differently than paints with a thinner film, but you know, ultimately if they're going to fade, they're going to fade. Yes, it's also not student grade versus professional grade. It's also like, it's all the pigments, and it, you know, if you care about this, then I'm happy to nerd out about it, but like, just recognizing that, you know, I don't need to feel guilty about, oh, you know, sometimes I want to paint with a moderately light fast, or you know, something that has a 7 instead of an 8 light fastness, right? Like, you know, we can nerd out about this, but it's not, but I don't need to worry about it. And so I've been, yeah, using this palette more. I like having the big mixing space. I like experimenting with different paints, and I do like the freedom of, like, you know what, I really do like Prussian blue. And yeah, it fades a little, so put it in a closet. Or don't. Okay, let's see. Let's see about this guy. What have I done in 2 hours? It seems like I've made no progress. glazed. What pens are these? These are something. Some Amazon find. I can find you the link. It's in my pen top 5 pens thing. My paint, some of them are starting to turn into a large sticky ball. Sorry, your paints, as in watercolor paints? Well, what type of paints? What type of paints are we talking about? And, question, Stephen, I've been considering whether I want to make that video. Is the elbows up for artists video? Is that a thing that people want? We're talking watercolors? Okay. It's tough. There's a brand called ENL out of, I think they're in BC now. Oh, okay. So, elbows up is Canadianism, is Canadian slang for stick it to the Americans. By Canadian. It's hockey slang. I've been looking at, I mean, I really do not need more art supplies. I do not need more art supplies. But I have looked at, well, if I did want to get Canadian art supplies, because right now I'm having a bit of an issue recommending anything in America. Who played for Detroit, yep. And so, I did a little tiny bit of research about, well, if I wanted to get all Canadian supplies, all Canadian made supplies. I mean, the truth is most of my supplies aren't American anyway. So first of all, it's not a major concern because I'm fine with, yes, occasionally I buy a brush or something from the UK or from Europe. But I did a tiny little bit of digging on like, what are Canadian art supplies like? They're limited, but there are some. Yes, so right. So in Canada right now, it's a very, very targeted, like, support local, but in the context of, as opposed to American, because our imports are like 80% America, right? I wouldn't make a general video on it, but I'd live that. Yeah, so it's, I mean, this is the thing, is like, I've looked at my stats and it's like, okay, well, this is of interest to Canadians, but my audience is not Canadian. I mean, some of my audience is Canadian, but not a majority. So it is, like, am I gonna start... Is it alienating to other people? Is it topical so it gets some traffic now? It's hard to tell. I also don't really feel like buying a huge amount of stuff, although I am likely putting in an order from TriArt because I have a discount from them. And a discount code, and they've got things like mounted aluminum panels that I want to try. Exactly. I hope most viewers are, yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, and the thing is, like, I have American viewers, and the thing is, it's, like, not about hating on them. But, you know, where I live right now, it's a huge, like, Canada's extremely focused right now on, because we're so dependent, we have been so dependent on the US for everything, and now they're talking about, I mean, luckily this seems to have stopped just in the past week, but there was months of talk of actual, like, taking us over. So they've sent you the full range for the database. Okay, I mean, I am happy to forward you things from TriArt. I am going to contact them. I haven't actually, I've only done, I signed up for their, whatever, their Shopify, the affiliate thing, basically. So I get a discount and then I have a code, but I haven't actually, like, reached out to them personally. What the hell was with that anyway? As if Canada was available for annexation? It's, to be clear, I don't think it's over. I would love to know what happened in that phone call between Mark Carney and Donald Trump that suddenly in the past week he's stopped. But I don't think that this plan is over. Ah, okay, you've got it. Great. Oh, I see, right, so they sent it to you, right, because you couldn't order it, so they just sent it to you. That's great, that's awesome. Oddly, it seems like there are Canadian stores that ship overseas, but I don't, TriArt, like, most of them don't even carry TriArt watercolors. I haven't tried the TriArt watercolors. I'm gonna order a few, along with some other supplies that aren't watercolor. They sent tubes. I think I'm probably going to get the tubes. Their pans are a weird size. Cheap plastic tops of the tubes. Yeah. Anyway, there's a few. I believe so, yeah. Direct from TriArt, or I believe they have their retail front is called Art Noise. Like, they have a retail store that sells all of the TriArt supplies plus some others, called Art Noise, but I would probably get them directly from TriArt. I don't know that, does Desserts actually sell TriArt watercolors, you know? Because I've actually had trouble finding the TriArt watercolors in, like, Canadian art supply stores. So there is, for watercolors, TriArt Beam Paints, ENL, which you can get from, I believe it's artsuppliescanada.ca or artsupplies.ca or something is their website. Nice and easy. They started out as an importer, so they have all of the Eastern European brands. But then they started making their own. watercolors. So ENL, and then there's a whole bunch of like small indie paint makers. Yep, there's also whatever, like natural earth paints or whatever they're called. You can also get pigments from Kama. Kama Pigments is wonderful. Cannot recommend them enough. They make their own oil paints, which are also great. But for watercolors, they'll sell you the pigments, and then they will also sell you gum arabic solution, which makes mixing the paints a lot easier. And so certainly for like earth paints, I would consider just get some Kama pigments and make them yourself. Yes, yeah. They have canvases from repurposed fabrics. Yes, I was going to get some of those. So I was thinking, like, yeah, some of this is interesting, like, just as a, like, hey, let's talk about Canadian brands. But yeah, it's very specific to Canadian viewers, because most of these things aren't even accessible outside of Canada. Or if they are, it's ferociously expensive to ship. But within Canada, there's a huge movement to support local business, but specifically support local business as a, like, shit, we need independence from our southern neighbors. We can't be dependent on that economy if they are threatening to annex us. Yeah, well, I have oil paints, so that's to go against my previous statements of, oh, well, I'm trying to keep things topical. I have oil paints that I've been meaning to try out, and like, you know what, maybe I should just do that in a video. And get some of those tri-art canvases. But yeah, so don't entirely know whether it's sensible to do. Yeah, elbows up by Canadian content, but could sit on a bunch of boxes of Molson Canadian like Bob and Doug a few decades ago. dress in a proper Canadian tuxedo. Eh. Yeah, no, for sure, right? So you want to support some Canadian paint makers, eh? Sorry, pushing this out of the way. Thank you. Thanks for joining. It is getting late, isn't it? Well, I'm still having fun here, so I'm just going to leave this stream on for now and keep painting. Because I might be in chronic pain, but at least I'm not exhausted all the time anymore. There's a really lovely Canadian paper maker called, what are they called? They show up everywhere. You've probably seen them at various art supply stores. Saint-Armand, I think. And I haven't really gotten much into their paper because most of the stuff that they sell is a rough finish, like most of the stuff that you find in stores. But they do apparently make various other finishes of paper, so I have been looking at, oh, maybe I should try their paper. What's that name? Sorry, let me look that up. Sorry, where did my mouse go? Mouse? Hello, mousey. Sure, I'll use my phone. It's kind of like a mouse. Saint Armand, so Saint Armand, Armand. So they were in Montreal. I believe they've now moved to the Upper St. Lawrence, but they're still operational in Quebec, and they're small batch paper makers. They make all sorts of interesting papers, including some apparently very nice watercolor paper. Heard great things. Haven't used them myself because I tend to use really smooth paper, and the pads that they sell at local shops tend to be more of a rough finish. But I did check out their website in my searching for Canadian art supplies quest, and they do in fact make other finishes of paper. They just, it's not their popular stuff is their popular stuff in art supply stores is the rough, because I guess it's like, plays into the, oh, it's handmade. Appeal for a lot of people. They don't ship, but there are lots of other places that do, including Beam Paints carries their paper as well as handmade in watercolor, plastic-free watercolors. Or handmade in Canada, plastic-free watercolors, handmade in watercolor. Great. Handmade in Canada. Yeah. There's also a brand called Nobel, but they seem to mostly import things. Sorry, the paper mill is Saint Armand. Saint S-T. Here, I will find my mouse so that I can. Aha, there we go. Here, I'll. Let me see if I can. shipping. Let's see if these people ship. Yeah, so there's plenty of Canadian, like they're all over Canada. So like if you're in Canada, it's very easy to get them at any art supply store. If you're not in Canada, I do know that Beam Paints carries them. So I'm linking that because I looked at that and they're advertising no tariffs, so that's cool. Papeterie. Oh, and also other option is the paper place. Here we go, Control C. Control V. I currently own Before It Goes Bad Train, but always good to hear about other semi-local manufacturers. Yes, I am looking forward to trying these people, and likewise, I don't actually have a need of any. Hello? Focus thing? Sorry. Why is my... Let us focus here. Focus. Focus, focus. Can I focus? Alright. Let's go. Focus, focus, focus. There we go. Better. Yeah, Wyndham's in Guelph. I'm pretty sure I get local delivery from Wyndham if you need something from Wyndham. Yep. But they sell... So, if you go to the... what I've had trouble finding is that they have two different kinds of watercolor paper. First of all, one of them is internally and externally sized, and one of them is only internally sized. So I wanted to try the one that had both types of sizing. And then it comes in 3 finishes. Basically, it's a extra rough, a rough, and a, like, medium press. I'm in Leamington now. Right. Yeah. And so they sell the, like, almost everywhere. I mean, even, like, the Art Store of Waterloo sells, you know, the Canal, I think is the Canal papers. The most common type of their watercolor papers, but they are, they tend to be the rough surface. So I wanted the one that had both types of sizing and was not as rough, ideally, although I'll probably get whatever is local to me first, just to try it out, whatever I can get locally, before trying to place a custom order, because you can actually contact the paper mill directly and get them to ship. They're like, try finding a local place first, unless you want something really specialized. Unfortunately, they also last year moved out of Montreal, so there was a moment where I was like, oh, I could just go and pick up some paper, but I think they've moved, and so I'm whatever. Not that I'm, like, in Montreal all the time, but, you know, it's a place I could go and have some other business to do, theoretically, whereas, like, you know, the lower St. Lawrence, it's like, yeah, I'm not going just for paper, right? Or, you know, get Ev to get me some paper if it was just about the paper. But unfortunately, they are no longer in Montreal. Dang, missed that boat. Okay, my back is starting to ache, so I think I'm actually gonna wrap this up before I screw up my body too much. Take a break and then edit my video. Thanks everyone for joining me, and I will see about making that elbows up Canadian Art Supplies video. Yeah, it's a fairly limited video, but you know, whatever I can do. Okay, bye-bye. End stream. End.